Welcome to Join Caucus. I'm sitting in for your regular host, Evans Mensah. Now, Ghanaians were glued to their television set for 3 days as the substantive hearing for the election petition began. Both sides are certain that the other has no case, with the Secretary General's engaging in a war of words on media platforms, so much so that some have called for a media blackout against them. Now, how will the political landscape cope with the pressures of a live courtroom coverage in this election results challenge that could irrevocably change the state of our nation? Now, even as his leadership is under legal consideration, the President John Mahama has had to face less than favorable ratings for his first 100 days in office. An empty government purse, striking workers, utility rationing, rising food prices, fuel price hikes have left some disillusion really about the Better Ghana agenda. But for others, the president has coped very well under pressure, especially with the accident of the West Africa gas pipeline and the breakdown of 4 filters at Wager that resulted in a utility crisis. Also, 17 miners this week died after a Galamsey pit collapsed in the central region. Traditional laws meant that the rescue effort has to be called off early, and Sector Minister Inusa Hussein has ordered the closure of that pit. But residents say they will continue to search for gold even unto their death. So should we leave them to their fate? And if not, what are the alternatives? So in brief, tonight we'll be discussing the election petition, and then we'll look at the Mahama's 100 days in office and then the Galamsey issues. In the studio, I have with me to my immediate left Abraham Amaliba, who is the NDC, is a member of the NDC legal team, I beg your pardon. And then next to him, I have Samuel Achian, who is a lawyer and an MP. He's an MP for Ebuakwa South. They're here representing their various political parties to discuss these issues. Welcome, gentlemen, to Join Caucus.
Thank you.
Let's start straight away with the election petition that is ongoing. Let me start with you, Abraham. Are your expectations being met?
Let me start by saying good evening to your viewers. My expectations, I rather would want to start by looking at the whole process. You know, this is the first time that we have such a high-profile constitutional issue before our Supreme Court judges. And so most of what we are doing in the Supreme Court now, there's no precedent to guide it. The Supreme Court will have to fashion out, and it is doing that, guidelines as to how to determine some of the issues. It is refreshing that we've also had live coverage, even though it came very late in the day. The announcement of it came very late. And so every Ghanaian is privy to what happens or is happening in the Supreme Court. 3 days of eventful sitting. 3 days in the sense that the first day was the day that the Supreme Court fixed. That's on the 16th for the matter to have commenced. But unfortunately, it didn't commence because of some technicalities raised by the petitioners. And so somebody will say that the first day there was no show. Second day saw the commencement of the trial proper. And we saw Dr. Bawumia take the witness box, or he gave evidence. There were those who were of the view that Bawumia excelled when he was giving evidence. But I said that that should not be the measure of his performance. Because no lawyer and his client will go into the courtroom without first having a conference. And the conference is meant to ensure that both client and lawyer are on the same page. And so the questions that were being asked Bawumia are questions that he was privy to. He already knew them. And no lawyer would ask a question not knowing the answer that is going to come from his client. And so, in that type of exchanges, every client is expected to excel. And I said that the only time we can, as it were, determine whether Bawumia has excelled or not is when we get to the cross-examination stage. Because at that stage, he never knows, he will not know which questions are going to be thrown to him. And we all saw it. That is yesterday. When the first respondent's lawyer, Tony Lita, started the cross-examination. There you saw a Bawumia who was hitherto touted as very eloquent, was able to answer the questions with dexterity, was now found wambling, and as it were, he was exposed badly yesterday. And you see, yesterday, 2 hours of cross-examination centered on only just one of the issues. Tony Lita was just about to enter into his helmet. He hadn't even warmed up. So for me, in summary, 3 days of eventful sitting of the Supreme Court. Ghanaians were privy to it because of the TV live coverage. I think that we should even extend this coverage to other networks, international networks like CNN, Al Jazeera, and SABC, South African Broadcasting Corporation, because there are some Ghanaians out there who have been misinformed. You know, people are holding placards and demonstrating on the streets of Europe and all those things because they have been misinformed. If this live telecast is brought to their doorsteps, they will also be privy to what is happening, and they will not think that anybody is playing hanky-panky with
So
them.
your expectations have been met. I mean, you still haven't zoning to answer my question of whether your expectations have been met.
At the end of the day, this live coverage for me is most welcoming. It has enhanced the transparent nature of the process. I'm not saying that if there was no live telecast, the process will not be transparent, but it has enhanced it, and it is a feather in our democratic process. So clearly, it met my expectation.
Right. So, Atacha, the live coverage thing, I mean, are you comfortable with the live coverage? Do you think that it is what your party wants, and whether it also meets your expectation?
Yes. I think there's a common sense perspective that we should always underline. The justice delivery system, what is it intended for? Who should be the ultimate beneficiary of the justice delivery system? The people. And therefore, if we try to make a fetish of courtroom, gymnastics, as it were, and think that, it's intended for a few enlightened men or learned men, and we've shortchanged.
So you think there were some gymnastics in the Supreme Court?
Oh, definitely. Yes. And people were beginning to question what is going on, and So I think when they see it for themselves, 2 things will happen. It will lessen the tension and also the whole, funny ideas, as if, some people are in a corner and they might want to shortchange us. Everybody is privy to what is happening. Even if the technical details they might not appreciate, they will try to understand why this, why that. So it's a good information for everybody. And what is also very important for all of us to appreciate is that when people have understanding that this is what happened and there was no short change in any way or form, eventually the verdict will not be a shock to people. And that is that's my chief concern, that people are being prepared psychologically for the outcome of the case. And that is very, very good for me. So I think it was in the right direction that a case of such monumental consequences, should be showcased to the generality of the people. That is my first reaction. My expectations have been met, yes and no. For instance...
let's start with a no.
With a no. Yeah, I don't think I was very happy when the justices of the Supreme Court said the combatants, as it were, should agree on the issues, and they gave them a long period of time to go and agree on the issues. I was expecting that. How were they expecting them to agree on the issues?
Is there anything legally wrong about the justices requesting that this agreement should be agreed on before the case is brought before the Supreme Court.
Well, I wouldn't say there's anything legally wrong, but given the antagonistic position they've taken, you know.
Whose antagonistic position? The justices?
No, the petitioners.
Okay.
And the respondents. Yes, you know. I thought that, look, what you tell us, we can distill ourselves. And that is the role of justices of the court. Because even your issues can be discounted totally. My colleague is here, and I mean, look, this issue has been raised by you, but it's not relevant to the trial. So if they had seen it earlier on, and as they did eventually, and they distilled the issues to 2, I thought that would have saved us a lot of time. And I am of the opinion that that was also a pretty waste of time. Secondly, my expectations have not been met to the extent that they are not following the day-to-day and even weekends and holiday rule. Because like my friend said, I disagree with him that there's no precedent to this. There's no precedent in terms of we having a presidential election challenge. But they've given them guidelines. CI 74, the Supreme Court Amendment Rules 2013. And in it, you can see the sense of speed with which this whole exercise should be carried out. So therefore, if you look at some of the regulations, it's so clear that if you look at 69 regulations, 69 5, the court shall sit from day to day, including Saturdays, Sundays, and public holidays. It means that there is an understanding of emergency which they should go by. So we're praying that barring any kind of unforeseen circumstance, let us see this day-to-day arrangement. Because I've been telling people, the nation is hurting. There's something hanging on the head of our president. If you should go to international, fora to do any business for and on behalf of this country, some people will be thinking that this man's legitimacy is being questioned. Let's wait and see. Some investors will tread cautiously that it is not opportune for us to come. Let's see the outcome of this election. Can Ghanaians handle the outcome? Is Ghana not going to be like Ivory Coast and all that? So these are some of the things which will agitate people's minds concerning what is going on in Ghana. It is good for everybody that it ends
as soon as possible.
So that is, one of the areas that I have not satisfied. Another area which I think is very fundamental, and I will tell you, I hold the humble view that it is not Akufo-Addo, Bawumia, and Jake who declared the outcome of these elections we had. And with all respect to the president did not crown himself the president of Ghana. It was the direct result of the returning officer, Dr. Farid Jan, who said,
you are president.
You are president.
As a result of evidence I have
in
terms of election results.
So therefore, my good man, I have said it time with that number that I thought, given the fact that there are some fundamental problems, even in terms of the exactitude of the voter roll and the rest of them, the referee who used evidence, not fiction, or his own imagination to make President Mahama the president, should have brought every conceivable document, what I call the primary evidence, based upon which President Mahama was made the president, on the table. And there the two combatants, now look, I have finished my job. My job is good. There's nothing that you can use to challenge this. Guess what? As we're talking now, do you know that the EC has not evidenced the fundamental basis of declaring President Mahama as the president?
How do you mean?
How do you mean? Yes. Exactly.
What I mean is this: that they were supposed to come out with the affidavit evidence.
You expected them to also come with
precisely,
let's say, 16 boxes of evidence in 6 trucks.
It could be the whole of the country, because they owe it to their name as the custodian of public documents to make the public documents available. We are not doing ambush litigation here. I'm telling you that
has been ruled upon by the Supreme Court.
Let me tell you, he's talking about expectations. I'm not talking about how the Supreme Court did it right or wrong. He's talking about my expectations as somebody who's rational. I'm saying that it's a terrible waste of time for you to say that let the custodian of the documents keep his documents to his chest. The documents that Dr. Farijan is keeping, is it for his personal, family, records? These are public records. And I thought that he would dare everybody in the world and bring the document that everybody who have any sense of life. Here is the basis of. Let me show you the petition, the affidavit of the Electoral Commission. You'll be shocked. This is the entire, affidavit. And it's a matter of deep regret that the primary evidence which they used to declare President Mahama as the president, they've not put it before.
Perhaps you're expecting too much from the Electoral Commission.
Oh, I'm not expecting much. I'm expecting integrity and truth to come from the referee. Because after all, how much can Akufo-Addo do to show up his case? He didn't declare the results. Why do you want to leave the referee out of this whole arrangement? And why would a referee withhold primary evidence that he used in declaring Mahama as the president?
Abraham,
so
I
that's
see
my chief concern.
You're nodding your head.
And for me,
have something
that is a big and huge disappointment in this whole process.
Yes. I disagree vehemently with his last point. Indeed, on his last point of the EC not giving out all documents in their possession, the Supreme Court rightly said that, look, these are documents that were made available to all the parties. The documents that are in the custody of the EC were also duplicated or quadrupled and given to all the political parties. So the MPP, led by their petitioners, have those documents. Those are the pink sheets. And so it is a waste of time to ask the EC again to produce that same document that you have. And I think this effectively closes the matter. It is only if you don't have those documents in your possession, then you say that, oh, you'll be met with surprise. It will come to you as a surprise if the EC begins to turn out those documents. But you have them. I have them. Everybody has them. PNC has them. CPP have them. So why would you then say that the EC should bring all those bulk of documents when indeed you have them?
It's not only documents, evidence. You see,
no.
Let me
documents
point out,
are the evidence. So
those documents. What about the biometric? Gadgets.
No.
To show.
Look.
Listen, Leonard. Let me make the point. Let me make the point. You see, apart from the documents, he's just confined himself to this one-sided issue of pink sheet. But somebody raises serious and fundamental allegations against you that you flouted the law and you did not do what we call biometric verification. I thought the first thing you do that, oh, damn you. Here are the biometric, gadgets showing that at every place they exercise, the people who wanted to vote were verified.
Perhaps whatever further documents you want, you could compel. You could go to court to compel the Electoral Commission to.
We are still in the trial process. The Supreme Court
goes,
can make orders at any point, at any stage of the trial. So if it becomes necessary that those gadgets should be brought into the Supreme Court for examination, it can be done. I don't think the door has been shut. The issue of the memorandum of issues.
So, Atacha, you still haven't told us your positive expectation. You remember I was asking you whether. Because I wanted us to land on that. Okay, so when you finish, Amaliba can totally take both your negative and positive and run with it.
My positive expectations, with all respect to you, is that for the first time, you can see that people are respecting the Constitution. And for me, I dove off my heart to Akufo-Addo.
Why him? I mean, the respondents also.
I can assure you something.
Also, are submitting themselves to the process.
Good. But it takes somebody who has good democratic ethos and a good appreciation of the law to say that even when you are hurt or you feel shortchanged, the root is Article 64. And that bit, for me, has met very serious representatives of mine. Some even said, every fool can go to the court. You heard those kind of balderdash. And now I'm happy that when sanity prevailed, they've also come in line and the adjudication is going on in a very civil manner. And I also pray that because of what is going on, everybody will accept the outcome of the. And that is when we join the Committee of Civilized Nations and Democratic Nations. So, oh, Ghana, I mean, we are up to the time. So, for me, I'm very, very excited as a lawyer that we are a law-respecting country, and that we have seen that our differences should not be settled through guns and, all kinds of violent tendencies, but we are respecting the law. That expectation has been met, and I'm very, very happy for that.
So the MPP is taking credit for this, really?
Oh, why? You can't take us out. You can't take us at all. You can see that we are the harbingers of the peace of this nation. Everybody should see that. And we shouldn't take it for granted.
You see, he rightly said, we are a nation of laws.
That's correct.
And we are guided by the Constitution. The Constitution gives us only one option, and one but only option, that if you are aggrieved after a declaration of results, you go to the court. There's no option to take up arms. For you to say that there were two options, but this man,
but taking arms will not be an option.
That's what I'm saying. There's no option. So once there's no option, you can say that this man has chosen one of the options, which is good for the development of Ghana. He could have chosen the other one.
Or good for him and his party.
There was no option.
But there's no other option.
There's no option. So once there's no option, there's no option.
It's not good.
No, I'm saying under the Constitution.
Go to Ivory Coast.
Please allow him to make his point.
I am saying that under the Constitution, there's only one option. The Constitution enjoins all of us, not only Nana Akufo-Addo. If I were also aggrieved, I would have taken that same path. So nobody should take any praises. Indeed, if you plunge this country into chaos, they will pick you up. When he talks about Ivory Coast, I also want to tell him about Kenya, where some people have been indicted. So Akufo-Addo, if he had gone that way, knows where he will land. So there's no option at all. So this praises being heaped on Akufo-Addo for choosing the right to go to the court, it is not anything that he can take credit for. It's the Constitution that says that you should do that. Why? You just pointed to him that the respondents also submitted to the democratic process and the court processes. What is good for the goose is equally good for the gander. I think that as a nation, we have moved forward. And I don't think that your example should be Ivory Coast. We have gone past that stage.
But Ghana is not beneath Ivory Coast or beyond Ivory Coast or Kenya. I mean, whatever happened there in these countries can happen here anytime. And if you are citing
examples, you cite good examples. And that will lead you to take those good paths. So I don't want to be compared to Ivory Coast. That is not it. You see, on the memorandum of issues he talks about, he has been into the Supreme Court a number of times. He knows that under the rules, most of the time the Supreme Court will have to ask the parties to see whether they can sit around and then fashion out the issues. I agree with him that because of this matter, which is so contentious and the stakes are so high, it was going to be difficult. And me, on that day, I said that there was no way they could have reached an agreement. But there was nothing wrong with the Supreme Court asking the parties to come together and do it. On the issue of sitting day to day, and then also including the weekends, my understanding, he may correct me, is that you need a Chief Justice to issue a fiat, even though it is in the CI 74. The Chief Justice must authorize it for it to take effect. And if that has not been done, that is maybe the reason why the Supreme Court has not been sitting
this Saturday
day by day. Exactly. So we may need to find out
how to put effect. We're getting there slowly.
Yes, we will get there.
What kind of fiat are you referring to?
No, I'm told that the Chief Justice...
There's nothing like that.
No, you don't understand.
Yeah.
The CI 74
says
that the Supreme Court will sit, including weekends. And then the registry will open even during weekends.
Precisely.
But I'm told that that will need some administrative fiat issued by the Chief Justice to give effect to this. The judges themselves cannot just be sitting weekends. You know, that's my issue.
Wow.
And that's what I'm saying, that we need to check on that. And that's why
I do not think that administrative fiat can overrule regulations of the Supreme Court.
No. Yeah. He's not making a fiat to say that don't sit on Saturdays. He must authorize it. Authorize it.
Well, is that what the law says?
It doesn't say that at all.
Now let's shift the discussion. Okay.
Can I?
But you see, the last point, there was a very important point. I need to react to that. The president is not under any pressure, so long as this matter is in court.
Really?
No. Indeed, you see a
if
president.
If it was you, wouldn't you be under pressure?
But he has.
I mean, if your leadership is being challenged.
Yes, and the president has said that that's the right thing to do. This is a president who is focused on the job. On the day that the Supreme Court was to sit, he received a high-profile personality in this country. Is that somebody who is bothered about the fact that his validity is being challenged? He received no less a person than Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. So he's not bothered. He is clear in his mind that these elections were free and fair, and he is sure that what is happening in the Supreme Court is just to ensure that we all come to terms with the fact that his election was actually valid. But he's not bothered about all these things. He's focused on the job.
Well, I think that's an argument out of this world, because, you see, the liberty of Professor Tamils to function as a president is not the same liberty he's enjoying. You don't know the weight of somebody saying that you are illegitimate. So please, I want to leave it there. But he said something which I found very interesting, that Bawumia was exposed badly by Tony.
Oh yes, that was it.
For Christ's sake.
That was it.
That is very sad. I believe that there was not any evidence that the foundations of what Dr. Bawumia put out there were shaken a bit by the cross-examination. And Dr. Bawumia explained the basis of having two sheets respecting the same polling station. One was electronically generated.
But he seemed to have been put in a tight corner by Tony Lita. Very tight.
What was the tight corner?
What
was the tight corner? I didn't see what the tight corner was. What was the tight corner?
Should I tell you?
When a man tells you in the face that two documents from the same polling station is what you have, one was generated manually, one came out as a result of the computer, and that no matter how you look at it, it doesn't affect the computation.
I mean, the point Tony Lita made afterwards was that, well, if you can make these mistakes, perhaps then you shouldn't be coming here challenging the electoral commission.
What kind of mistake is that?
For making mistakes.
Yes, that is his own thinking that was a mistake. I believe that was prudence. That if you had 5 days to bring 11,000 plus what's it called there?
Pink sheets, documents, and other forms of evidence.
You think that is a cheap undertaking? The EC had not brought one shred of document over there.
The EC filed further and better particulars.
And I'm telling you that process, even if you are an Einstein, you can find some mistake. But those mistakes do not go to the roots of the calculations is made. And that is what should concern Tony Lita. That Tony Lita has not impugned the integrity of the pink sheets. So sometimes people believe that advocacy is trying to make it melodramatic. But the essentials of his case, I'm afraid to tell you, he's a lawyer, is not touched at all. Because what you have to do is to contradict him on the fundamentals of his case, the figures.
And that's intact.
Oh, goodness me. He didn't even start the presentation.
I just told you that Tony Lita was just warming up. And I'm not here to disclose.
You are expecting more from Tony Lita.
It will be explosive on Monday.
Okay. Well, this is Joint Caucus. My name is Stephen Antia. We have Atachia, who is MP, and for Achime Buakwa, and Abraham Amaliba, who is the NDC member of the NDC legal team. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Joint Caucus. My name is Stephen Anti. I'm sitting in for your regular host, Evans Mensah, and I have with me Atachia, who is MP for Ibuakwa South, and Abraham Amaliba, who is a member of the NDC legal team. Now, if you are experiencing unsynchronized video and audio signals, please switch off your digibox from the mains and switch it back again after a minute. If the problem persists, you can call us on 0302 211 68025. So if you're a multi-TV digibox owner and you're experiencing unsynchronized video and audio signals, please, you're advised to switch off your box from the mains and then switch it back on again after a minute. If the problem persists, kindly call us on 0302 211 68025. And we'll be very glad to help you. So back to Joint Caucus, we'll put the discussion on the table. The 100 days of Mahama. Let me start with you, Atachia. The good and the bad how do you gauge Mahama's first 100 days in office?
It's very, very difficult to judge because he's been a man of many troubles. And in terms of performance...
Utility troubles, labor strikes,
a man whose first
agitations.
baptism was a petition to the Supreme Court that he's not validly elected as president. You know, the psychological blow, somebody is pretending it will not exist. But I'm telling you the truth. Anytime the very foundation of your legitimacy is challenged, it will give you some concern. The concern is even evident by the fact that you have lawyers defending it. It tells you that, look, it's a serious undertaking, and if you joke with it,
you're out.
You're out. So I believe that his starting is even
limping. He started on the wrong, on a limping foot.
And I was not expecting him to do much because I don't know whether...
So your estimation hasn't done much?
Oh, no. And he can't do much because...
I mean, he has appointed his ministers.
Well, these are formalities, you know. I'm telling the truth. That is something that he cannot leave a vacuum because that will expose that, oh, then he's very incompetent. So the packaging you have to do willy-nilly. But you could see that I was not expecting much for the simple reason that my good friend here didn't maybe stand as an MP. The extent of the display of electoral opulence from the NDC was always
part of the 100 days?
I'm telling you, I'm giving you. It's part of the 100 days, you know. I'm giving you cause and effect. If you respect cause and effect analysis, just a few sentences, I'll just tell you. Then I go to the other thing that you were saying. You see, if you were a politician like me, trying to contest elections, I couldn't believe monies could be spent in the manner in which it was spent during the last electionary campaign. No wonder people are saying that there was such a huge over expenditure in terms of our budget. And people are saying that certain vehicles were used to siphon money for elections. And serious people are even calling for investigations. People are calling about NATMO. People are calling about the sports ministry and all kinds of vehicles that people believe that monies were taken. And therefore, as he rightly said, that now the meat is reduced.
It's down to the bone.
It's down to the bone. What were you expecting if a government should spend so much money and to the extent that the international community is alarmed? Oh, goodness me. Your over expenditure is too much. With what are you going to run the system? And this is what has given fuel to the rest of the workers who are agitating. That when they begin to see that, oh, for people to do afforestation, I mean, so much money should go in there. And if people should go about, I mean, doing guinea fowl arrangements and that kind of thing, so much should go. So why are you telling us we shouldn't be paid? So I'm saying that the antecedents are not good and the effects are obvious. What I would say, with all respect to him and what he's doing now, is a simple fact that, well, I wonder how fast he'll be able to raise money to meet some of these crises. Or how politically savvy he'll become to still the labor storm. I hold the view that if you are not careful, it has a bandwagon effect.
But he's working to resolve the labor agitations.
Yes, I'm praying that he goes that way. But in terms of poverty reduction, trying to give us a modicum of comfort in terms of electricity generation and the rest of them, what can we say about him? He's become, like, unfortunately for him, a man who's met so many problems. So with all respect to you, this 100-day yardstick, I think
that it's not fair.
It's not even fair on him.
Okay.
And we should forget it all. The rest of it, you appoint ministers, because if you don't, then
your government will not function.
How is it going to function? So why should we praise somebody for the mundane? I believe appointing ministers is mundane. It doesn't involve serious Einstein thinking to go into saying that, oh, somebody should be applauded because you put ministers together. If you didn't put ministers together, what were you supposed to do?
Abraham, so you heard Atache.
I heard him very well.
First 100 days of Mahama's administration. Imani has given him 47%, and some political scientists, Bosman Asari we spoke to, feels that the 47 is less charitable. And so in terms of day-to-day administration of government, you think Mahama has done better? Obviously, you would think so.
Before I come there, let me just point out something. He talks about international community
being alarmed about budget deficit.
Since when did the MPP and Atachia start believing the international committee?
Was it not the same international committee? The World Bank has concerns.
Was it not the same international committee that declared this election free and fair? Why didn't they accept that?
Without the pink sheets.
When it sues them, they agree to what the international committee is saying. When it doesn't sue them, they say they don't want to agree. That's on a lighter note. Stephen, you see? The point is this. To be frank, the president has not had that honeymoon that other presidents have had. Oh. Yes. He has plunged, or he took over at a time when things were so bad. But you see, before you can measure the height a person has reached, you have to look at the depth from which he came. You get the point? Mm-hmm. So if I just look at the height, 47%, it may not be good, no pass mark. But you see, if you look at the depth from which he came, suppose somebody starts from 0 and is progressing, and you start from -9. Before you get to 0 and stabilize, that person is already gone. That is the situation in which...
Yeah, but he came from the previous government, so he has been there. He was part of the problems and part of the solutions up to the point he took over.
The difference is that was somebody's vision he had to buy into.
But he was working for that person.
Yes, that was somebody's vision.
He was the right-hand man.
Now he has his own vision, and he has to paddle that vision. You see, the president himself has acknowledged the challenges. But you need to look at how he has dealt with those challenges. Before he took over, and before, when we were plunged into darkness, we had 300 megawatts of electricity deficit. As we speak now, this has reduced to 80 megawatts. And by April, some sources will come up. Part of Bui will come up to at least augment it. So first 100 days, you don't expect... You see, managing a country is not like managing a household. So first 100 days, you don't expect to see tangible. You can only see, or you can only envisage direction.
So you are saying that for his first 100 days, there have not been tangibles.
You cannot hold him accountable to tangibles. But you can only look at the direction in which he's sending this country.
And the cosmetics.
I don't know about that. But you see, he has put together a youthful ministers who are ready.
There are questions about some of the quality of some of the ministers. I mean, these have come up consistently in the media.
Qualities and competence will only come if you allow them to function.
So you would say, let's give
them time. Those who are speaking that way, those who are speaking that way should go and ask President Kufuor when he was appointed at that tender age by Buzia. What he does, he's putting together a crop of young ministers who are the future, not leaders, but preparing them for future assignments.
Right. Around. So, Atashan, let's quickly jump off from here because we don't have a lot of time to speak a little about this Galamsey issue.
Yeah.
The people who died is very, very pathetic. We have 3 minutes to wrap up, really. So, what's your own comments about this tragedy and the way forward, what we should be doing to resolve some of these unfortunate incidents?
Yeah, this brings me back to my Chibi and the environs where Galamsey has taken ascendancy. And they've experienced death toll like these people have experienced. No? But sometimes we ignore the sanctity of human life. Let me tell you my honest views about Galamsey. I believe that given the poverty arrangement we find ourselves, people have to eke out a living.
And it is fine for them to do small-scale mining.
Yeah, to do some small-scale mining.
But it has to be regulation.
It should be regulated.
There's the same position. NDC and MPP both share the same position.
But
why hasn't there been regulation which are effective enough to resolve the problem?
Because the arm of government is weak in the superintendence of these arrangements. Let me tell you one of the things I found. We keep complaining about illegal mining in Galamsey. Have you ever heard that the Caucus, those people who are behind this arrangement have been arraigned before courts and prosecuted. Half the time, the poor guys who are manning the gadgets who are arrested. But we can go back and see the big guys who can afford to hire the machines, and the chiefs who give their support to this arrangement because of the financial return, all working free. So I think that in terms of the security, trying to nip these menace in the bud, it's not been too good.
They're not doing enough.
At all. They're not doing enough.
Yes. Galamsey issue. This is a problem on our hand. It's been here for years.
We need to draw the line between small-scale mining and Galamsey. Galamsey is illegal, like you rightly indicated. But small-scale mining is allowed under our laws, and it is only Ghanaians who are allowed to venture into that system, even though we now know.
But even that,
Chinese
the regulation is poor.
Yes,
enforcement of the regulation is poor.
Why Galamsey is attractive is because of the poverty situation that we have. And when you do a cost-benefit analysis, even though they are dying, it is still attractive to go in there because it is better to go in there, risk it, and not go in there and then die out of poverty or you are hungry. So I think that the modalities, the way and manner in which we give license to people must be decentralized. Everybody will have to come to Accra. That small-scale miner who is engaged in illegal mining, who wants to regularize his work, will have to come to Accra. Minerals mining, MP and YYCC. Minerals, precious mineral mining.
Marketing, PMMC.
PMMC. If we allow the district assemblies to also be able to, as it were, license the people, I think that's one way by which we can curtail some of these things. Secondly, training to these persons as to how to handle some of the equipment and even how to dig and all those things would go a long way. Because I think that there's no way we can win the fight against Galamsey. It's going to be difficult.
Well, thank you very much, Abraham Amaliba. I'm afraid this is where we have to draw the curtains, make way for the news at 8. My name is Stephen Ente. Abraham is a member of the NDC legal team, and Samuel Atachia is a lawyer and MP for Achimabwako. We have been looking at the election petition hearing, the 100 days of Mahama, and then the recent Galamsey collapse pit. So, Atachia, I'll give you a minute to say a closing remark.
Well, I think that there is some relative peace in this country, and we shouldn't take it for granted. And I'm trusting God that His wisdom and truth will guide the Supreme Court, and that at the end of it all, whatever we are going through, Ghana will be better off and will stand in better stead in the eyes of the entire Committee of Nations.
Abraham.
What you don't know is that he's a pastor too, so that's why he has gone that tangent. He should have added that to his credential. I agree with all the things he has said. I think that we must see ourselves as one nation. And I think that whatever the Supreme Court verdict comes out, we as a people should embrace it.
And move on.
Yeah.
My name is Stephen Ente, and thanks for staying with us on Joint Caucus. Good night.